Everybody expects you in, you're like, I need to get up for this. You almost slap your face before the game, thinking, I need to get on it here.
Every day has bad days. You're not going to, you can't be on all the time.
I actually know how to make sourdough bread as well. Naisy and I were having a chat about it.
You don't need a hairnet, do you?
No,
Surely
no.
not.
That's low, man.
Welcome to the warm-up, brought to you by William Hill, proper supporter of the SPFL. We've got Steven Naismith back in the co-pilot seat. Is that an Ayrshire tan?
This is a good tan for me.
You've been away, I can see you've got a wee glow on you. And
Yep.
two top guests, we've got Charlie Mulgrew and Stuart Kettlewell. Good to see you both. Both well?
Yeah, all good. Looking forward to it.
Enjoying early strides into management?
Yep, it's been good. Good response for the lads, enjoying it. A lot of stress, woke up with Steinmine Sunday. A lot of thinking, a lot of organising.
Is that a managerial stress injury?
I don't know, I googled it and stress was mentioned and that made sense to me. So I just go with it. It's good, I'm enjoying it. It's got challenges, but it's good.
Sure, you do realise, because you're obviously out of management now, which I'm sure we'll get to, but you need to try and get back in soon or you'll end up like this guy. He started baking sourdough bread to like a professional level. That's the type of thing that happens.
You're looking refreshed as
have you
well.
been
I
relaxed?
actually know how to make sourdough bread as well. Naisy and I were having a chat about it before we came in here.
Is that what out-of-work managers do, seriously?
That's what we're turning our hand to these days, yeah.
Unbelievable. Anyway, let's start last night, obviously. One place to start, Munich. Charlie, where's the balance between kind of heartbreak and maybe pride or compliments toward the performance?
There's obviously, it's a sore one. Cal McGregor said after the game, it's when you play that well, you want to get to extra time. It's a real sore one to take, but they've got to take heart in the performance. When you look back and probably when the emotions kind of come away from it and they look at the performance they put in, then they've got to be happy. I mean, who would have thought they would have went there and took Bayern to the last kick of the ball in nearly extra time? But when you get that close, you want to just get to extra time, and then you never know if you can get through that with tired legs. Never when you get to penalties, you just never know. But that's a sore one.
See, the other thing as well, though, it wasn't as if they sat in and they were the better team. Four brilliant chances. They went I think they went toe to toe, keeping possession at the right times, being a threat at the right times. That'll be disappointing.
I didn't see the game because we were training, so I'm interested in
easily the better team for
they?
the full game. Four, and it's no, you say big chances.
Pretty good chances, yeah.
Great chances. Cal McGregor through 1-on-1. Maeda has a chance. Kuhn. There's so many good.
They all came early as well, didn't they, those chances?
I think it was the nature of some of the chances as well. I don't think some of them were fortuitous. I think that they actually played their way into areas. They combined well, and genuinely on another day they're sitting 2-3 ahead in the game, and and they could probably still be saying that they'd missed a chance or two.
The last 10 minutes was the only part I thought they're now dropping off, but
it's inevitable, isn't it?
That needs to come.
See, in a crazy situation, like you could say, the squad has been let down by the board slightly in that the subs, they were at that level. We know playing in the Champions League, the subs have to make it. Bayern subs make the impact. Celtic kind of started to hang on a wee bit
and
when
they
they
only made
subs.
two.
Yeah.
When would they ever do that?
No, exactly. And that's the next step. I think that's the next stage for Celtic to.
I think he said that after the game, didn't he? I think he acknowledges that there was a top performance for his side. It was. I don't think anybody can deny that. But I think if you're trying to put those building blocks into how it goes to the next level, I think Brendan had said that after the game, that they acknowledged that you probably need that wee bit more strength and depth at the absolute top level, which that was last night. There's no doubt about it.
Did you see that balance there in the loosest sense, almost like you taking a Motherwell team or a Ross County team to Celtic Park, where you're trying to be hard to beat, but the biggest challenge really is then doing that and carrying a threat, isn't it? It's like trying to do both. Is that what
Charlie and I spoke about it just before we came on air. You're always talking about trying to, whether it's League One, Premier League, Championship, it doesn't matter. You're always trying to find that balance, and I think that's possibly, for me, my takeaway for the game was that they struck the perfect balance between being a threat, being able to spend time in the ball, but also where they were getting the ball back from Bayern. At times it wasn't pressing them really high up round about their penalty box. At times they're almost dropping towards that kind of middle third of the pitch, and biding their time and setting traps. And I thought that they were excellent.
In their
at that.
performances, that's the key. See, when you, in my opinion, when you win possession back, you've maybe had to defend, and it's what you do in them moments. And for me, Engels was, you pay the big money for a guy like him. Near enough every decision he made was right. He was comfortable to take it under pressure. He'd release the pressure which then let Celtic build.
I don't know what the guys think, but I watched the game last week and I think we were all maybe guessing one position, one sort of combination. My guess last week was how Celtic started the game at the top end of the park, having Maeda, Kuhn, and obviously Jota on the left hand side. And I thought that's what it would be last week, because I think you just get that ridiculous intensity at the top of the park. Maeda playing as a striker, he'll set the tone for how they go and get the ball back. That's nothing against Ida. It's just that I felt that probably bringing in Jota, he comes into the team, he comes into the starting lineup, and I felt that had a bit of a difference in their performance, in their play.
Charlie, do you think there has been a progression then, or a maturity now? Because Brendan Rodgers' first spell, he got a lot labelled at him about too open or whatever and heavy defeats, and then even within this campaign, I think if you take Dortmund versus Munich, has there been a kind of maturity there, a learning curve?
There definitely has. I mean, was it Atalanta away? That was a big one where a lot of time spent out of possession, and I felt that Celtic in the Champions League campaign this year had to be better out of possession. And I think in that game that was a big turning point. They've seen how they can, although by the sounds of last night they didn't sit that deep, but they've got the way when to press and when to sit in a shape, because you need to have that in the Champions League. You need to swallow your pride a wee bit and think we're not going to have as much of the ball here. And although Celtic every single week are used to having possession, 75% possession, you need to then turn that and go, right, we're not going to have the ball. Can we control the game in a certain manner outside of 10 men behind the ball and just have a way of going and pressing and pick your moments to go, like Ketch just said there. So I think there definitely has been this year. I think it's been some great performances, and they've got that balance really bang on.
See that Callum McGregor chance? That was the earliest one, wasn't it? That was almost the one that set the tone, where you could see how deliberate it was, where Celtic were just sitting off a bit. And this is where I need you guys to educate me, but waiting for that trigger or whatever
that's
it was,
exactly
and he nicked it, and then
100% they'll have watched it the first game and seen the opportunities, right? Because on the pitch it's so easy to think I might get there, and you just release, but at the top level, before you know it, they've popped you. So it's so important, and Cal done that, won the first one, and then he gets in. I was actually surprised that he never hit the target. Coming through as a left winger,
and he's flying this season for
exactly. But coming through, Cal was a winger that would dribble, beat his man, shots off all the time. Early on in the game, maybe no used to being in there, the adrenaline, but that definitely did set the tone. It was trapping them all the time. I think they conceded and said, let the centre halves have it, come out to a point, and then we know when we're going to move. And the defence was brave as well. How high was that line?
It is, and but again, I think when you look at the opposition, I think a lot of time we would talk about trying to find space in between the opposition from a Bayern point of view by trying to play over the top. You get your head up, you're able to release somebody in behind, and in actual fact, that was where the first goal came from last week, wasn't it? At Celtic Park, Upamecano gets his head up, and he done something totally different. He switched the play, he played a longer pass, and before you know it, they start to penetrate beyond. I know there's a wee bit of fortune in the ricochet that comes off of Taylor, but that's what changed it for Bayern. But yesterday it didn't really seem as if they were prepared to. I know you've never seen the game, Charlie, you're taking my word for it here.
No, I'm interested in this interest.
But they didn't look to do that. It was as if they were almost just set in this way that they would just continue to play around Celtic and look for opportunities to play through them. And I suppose the flip is that opportunity there to get your head up and play a totally different type of pass.
It's interesting that, innit? Because when teams do play high lines, like if you're saying that, did I see the game? But I'm assuming that Celtic played high, you says it as well. It's mad how sometimes in this country we think when you play football everything needs to be there, whereas actually sometimes when the space is there and it's not a pass, sometimes it's a good pass that you're seeing Buchanan play that last.
It's not just a punt.
It's not a punt, it's a pass into an area. Then teams then begin to think, oh no, we need to drop as a defender. 2 or 3 yards drop is enough for you to then find the space between the lines. So it's interesting how these teams do that.
I think that's why Schlupp played left back, because he had the pace. He was powerful up and down.
Yep.
How do you think Greg Taylor will take that?
Again, it's a situation that for me, Greg Taylor's went underrated massively over the years. He's consistently performed. He's fit all the time, near enough, and he gives you something different. I think these stages where you're running out of contract, you leave yourself open that as they recruit, you become less valuable. That's it. But I think it'll resolve itself. Kieran Tierney coming back, definitely Greg Taylor's got to sit and go, well, what's going to happen with me next season? And that'll play a part as well.
I think not the full point of Brendan Rodgers coming back, but it was clearly there was a huge emphasis, Charlie, because he'd won everything domestically before, and in some style. So it was quite obvious. He said that everybody was speaking about it as trying to make those kind of next steps in Europe. Do you feel like if Celtic done that?
Definitely. I think you can't deny the fact the last time he was here, and when Ange was here, they never done that. But this year you can see a clear progression. I mean, although it's not the last 16, he's got to a playoff that nearly got there.
Is that the new success, getting to this stage, or is there success further
in
on?
Champions League?
Yeah.
That's a big ask, innit? I mean, it's last night's a huge performance. Nobody would ever said that. So everybody's then thinking, hold on a minute. Imagine we'd get through that. Where could Celtic get to? But
I think hypothetically, if we talk about where that can go, and we'll never know for next season, we're speculating. If the draw was different and you were playing against a different team, because I don't know about you guys, I see Bayern Munich as one of the top 2 or 3 here in the conversation to win this. I think they've got everything as a team. Then you're saying if the draw was a wee bit more favourable, then those types of performances may have got you into the next round.
I think that it's unlikely to say that you would expect Celtic to get in the top, jump through the 16. But I think if the right draw comes, that the nick getting through this round is probably where they should be aiming for, I think.
Difficult, wasn't it? Because then you could flip that the other way and say, what if you get a harder draw in your league phase?
yeah,
And then I've seen this last night, and I don't grudge Celtic fans for this on the night, because they came so close, but saying we're maybe 1 or 2 players away from beating Bayern. So let's go again.
Bayern weren't
you're
great
also,
though,
you're also,
on the night either.
Do you know what I mean? You're also maybe not, because it's still Bayern Munich. So you've been there, you've seen it. How hard is it for Celtic to keep trying to push through that glass ceiling?
it's so hard because, like you just said there, the expectation now rises. So Celtic going to next year's Champions League campaign, and that great atmosphere at Celtic Park, what I've experienced, to the point where you get a throw-in against Barcelona and the place erupts and you think you're doing well when you've not seen the ball for 20 minutes, right? That's the facts. To the next year, you're at Ajax home and you play a sideways pass and they're going, come on, we're not beating Ajax. The expectation rises, so it becomes harder. And that's where it's difficult.
Where does the club go though? So trying to gauge that expectation, but who is to say that the recruitment side of it must come into it? You've got your domestic side where Celtic are miles ahead, I think. But are they 2 or 3 players away from really competing?
How far do you go with that? How much do you spend? So if you spend 11 million on Engels, do you spend another 2 players 11 million and spend 22 million? All of a sudden Celtic are now starting to spend 30, 40 million in transfer
windows.
windows.
Of the Champions League consistently.
It doesn't guarantee it though,
You
does
might
it?
still lose to Bayern Munich. And then sure, the other thing is we always talk about player recruitment here. We always talk about 2 additional players. What if clubs have been looking at Daisen Maeda last night and how his intensity alone creates the goal? You know, Nicholas
Johnson.
Well,
Kuhn
Kyogo,
scores the
if
goal.
he played there last night, does he score the Maeda cross ball? The ball comes across.
I think you look at it as well though. I think Celtic, from my perception, just looking at this, I think Celtic have evolved. I think the business model's there whereby they may well sell another player or 2, but what they have done, which I don't think they've done, and Charlie may be more qualified than me to say this, I think that they have invested in their squad properly now. I think that there's obviously some big numbers there for Scotland. I think that shows an intention. I think that shows quite clearly. And you know what, you might fall flat in your face at some point. It might not come to fruition, but I think that you have to be buying a ticket, for want of a better phrase, to be bringing in the Engels of this world, to be bringing Jota back to the football club. But you know what, again, I'm huge on this. I'm really, really big on this. The business model's been fantastic when you look at the sales and what they've generated for the football club. It is like a well-oiled machine in what they're doing, and you can just see that trundling on, no matter whether they lose a particular player, maybe a Maeda, people looking at him for example, then I still think that Celtic will have a contingency plan to make sure that they're still at that level.
See, having come up against them, are they better now than they were last season? Are they the best version of themselves? What specifically is it that is so difficult to...
There's so many similarities, even from when I had managed. I think we got a draw at Celtic Park, which at the time was the first point that had been taken against Celtic, not last season, the season before. I had a very specific way of trying to play against Celtic. Got a wee bit of joy from it. We're really close with them in so many games. Never beat them, but we got a couple of draws in there. And sometimes you see that as success. You have to put it into context. The biggest part for me, and maybe not giving up the ghost here, but the biggest part for me was the job of the fullbacks and what the fullbacks start to do and the penetration that they get in the wide areas. I think a lot of us looked and went, Kyogo scores loads of goals and he's standing in an offside position. For me, it was how they hurt you and how they sort of killed you in those wide areas. So we adjusted how we played against them, stuck to a real kind of specific blueprint of this is how we're going to try and nullify them in the wide areas.
What was that?
Well, we played with a back five, and the wing backs for us had to be our depth. They were our deepest players. Now, normally you've played in a back three, it would normally be the middle centre back that would play as the deepest player. Can be a wee bit risky, but we then decided that we would try and have that depth and cover from our wing backs. But at times they had to defend the inside shoulder, because how many times have we seen Celtic play that straight pass with angled run and you're done? Square ball, Kyogo taps in the goal, or a striker taps in the goal. So we kind of had that we worked off the back of. But the more that you do, the more that we done that and got a little bit of success. And I actually spoke to Brendan Rodgers after one or two of the games, and they were talking about quicker switches of play against us, so that was then starting to open up and nullify the spaces inside the pitch for us on the other side. So as much as we're sitting there trying to rectify it and trying to nullify the threat, they're then evolving all the time and trying to find ways round about it. We sort of played a diamond in the middle of the pitch, which the fullbacks, we felt those inverted fullbacks were starting to come in towards where we had strength, where we had numbers, and we were giving up areas of the pitch where Celtic would have the ball. But again, you're playing against some real good football minds, some people that are very, very astute in the game, so they continually look to go and try and work their way around that as well. So I love the battle, and I'm sure you were the same. I love the challenge, but then we have to be thinking further, because they've got top players, but they've also got top minds operating those top players.
What does it become about now then, Charlie? I take it everyone expects domestic success to follow because the league position's so strong. The Scottish Cup picture's looking pretty good for them as well. Is complacency the only thing? What does that mean? Can that seep in if you're Celtic domestically? Or are they just too well oiled now for that to become a factor?
I think, of course, there's always that possibility. And I think Rodgers that's been one of his main strengths, looking for the outside, looking in. Whenever they've had some sort of success, he's always kept them on their toes. And that's why he's been so successful with trebles and trebles and constantly. Because for my time there, I remember you would have times where everything was going well, and then all of a sudden you would go to Ross County away, and it would you would need to keep reminding yourself that not to get that, because if you starts seeping in, then you can allow gaps to be closed. So no, he's been brilliant at that. I think
he's been good at when they have had a wee blip, maybe the performance in the League Cup final, when they have dropped points, it hasn't snowballed into 2 or 3 bad results. It's been one, then stopped. I also think having a core Scottish, British mentality players who just understand what the old firm is, especially, that'll play a part. So even a James Forrest not playing every week, McCowan coming in, Ralston being there, if they're not contributing on the pitch all the time, they're still contributing in the background for sure.
And I think you mentioned the players there. Cal McGregor, obviously massive in that. And you've got John Kennedy and all the staff behind the scenes, Stevie Woods and all that. They all understand all that stuff. So although Brendan Rodgers is a leader and he dictates who does what and manages the whole situation, they've all got their part to play as well. And it's a bit moving on to the next game and leaving no stone unturned and making sure that mentality's right to move on. He's absolutely ruthless in his decision making and what he does. I remember the first time they were unbeaten, weren't they, up these first 6 months, and then they went to Dubai. And they had a practice match in Dubai, and it was like the start 11 versus the rest, and the rest beat them 1-0. And we came back. If you remember, if you look at the first game back for the winter break last time, he made 3 or 4 changes in the team. Boyata came in, and just complete ruthlessness, even though they'd been unbeaten. It was like, no, if you are doing it, if you're not doing it, you're not playing. So I think the players must feel that off them somehow, and it guards against complacency.
I want to look at the three of you here, because we've got a nice spread. You came out of management a little bit longer ago. Stuart's just out. You've just gone in. So let's try and pick our way through the madness of it all. Stuart, how do you look back now? I think you've been saying in the last couple of days, no regrets. Certainly, how do you view your decision to walk away?
No, exactly that, Gordon. It was a real tough decision to make. For me, probably a kind of unique one and an unusual one for a lot of people. I know you and I had a conversation previously. I feel that certain things get to a stage where you have to make a call for the benefit of yourself and for your family. One of the things that I've spoken about is that resource and expectation. And I know that there can be a huge gulf at times between that. But as I say, when you feel that certain things cross the line, I'm I'm really proud of the work that was done at Motherwell with what we've had at our disposal. There's been a number of factors there, you know, player sales, developing young players, playing young kids, or young academy graduates, winning games of football, being competitive, cup runs, all these different types of things. They're great, so I'm happy with that. But as I say, when you start to feel that then crosses a line and there's an expectation that it should be something different, it should look different. Naisy and I had a conversation before we came in here as well, and I'm not a guy for then just clinging on and saying that I'm involved in football and I've got a job in football and that should impress people. I need to believe in what I'm doing 100%. I think everybody needs to be on the same bus and travelling in the same direction. And I have to stress that there were, you know, there's good supporters in amongst that as well. I had the full backing of the staff and the players. I've no doubt about that whatsoever. But sometimes I think you get to a little bit of crossroads and you have to make a decision. And as I say, I kind of stand by my decision as much as I love doing the job, and it's
over
it
the
is what I
last
want to
10
do.
years. I think though that there's a grey area between frustration and abuse just in general, and that's the mucky area that everybody can be frustrated in games. You can always come away from a game. Celtic last night will be sitting frustrated after the game, but it's that grey area.
How you voice that, or
how you accept it, or
do you think that's got
what's
worse?
I think that's got worse.
Is it about
over the
finding,
years.
you know, for you what your personal line is, and it would be different for everyone. You know, you've got young kids. You know, you've spoken about the fact that impacted them. I know you want to kind of clear up that it's not necessarily people were firing abuse at your kids. It's that it's at you and it impacts them. Whereas other managers might not have young kids and they might not have.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, at the age maybe my kids are at, and I've spoken about it, we are a really tight-knit family. My kids and my missus, my family have always followed us everywhere. The guys will have had as much, if not more, abuse certainly than I've had. Everybody does have a breaking point. Everybody has their own cause and their own fight and their own set of circumstances. I think Philip Clement had maybe indirectly referenced me in terms of, you know, that he wasn't going to be walking away and he wasn't going to be going anywhere sort of thing. And that's absolutely fine. That's okay. I don't take exception to that. But there is no one size fits all in all of this. I completely agree with what Nazy's saying there, that, you know, maybe since I started managing several years ago, you see, I feel you see a change. And at what stage does it come to as well? I'm okay with the jeers and the discontent about a bad pass or a poor performance and people voicing that. That's okay. But for me, there is definitely a line that can be crossed. And what does it take? Does it take one of us to kind of lose our head? And I'd spoke about, do you then go and confront somebody, jump advertising boards? That's never where you want it to get to. So again, I come back to my own personal situation. I don't ask anybody to give me a cuddle and feel sorry for me. I've made a decision for what I believe is
So you
is
get
right.
into that decision because being in there and the intensity all the time, right? So things lead to your point going right. Do you then have a thought of what does this do for further jobs or anything like that?
No, because as I say, it's very clear that, as I say, we had the backing from the most important people, I suppose, in many ways, the players and the staff. You hope and you believe that that what you've done in your record would show that you're capable of doing the job, exactly the same as yourself. And I'm sure moving forward with Charlie as well. So that, you know, I'm at peace with myself. But I think is if you start thinking along that way, then you're making decisions for the wrong reasons. You know. And as I say, I'm always somebody that kind of believes in that longer term, where we're going, what we can achieve, what we can do. And is there a cycle of managers? I absolutely think there is. Is there a cycle of a Motherwell manager? Potentially. When you look through history and you look through time, that might be a thing that's in there as well. That cycle has really shortened through time, especially in the Premier League. And as I say, I don't think any of us want to be on this merry-go-round. You want to get your foot in the door and do a good job and stay with it. But as I say, Motherwell move on, new manager appointed, and certainly don't wish anybody any ill. I wish them all the best. But as I say, also incredibly proud of the work that was done and what was achieved.
I will say that football's an industry in its early days for me and my management career, and hopefully that's a long career. But being talking from a player's point of view, and we all felt it, it's the hardest industry in the world. You live your life in a glass bowl, getting judged by every single person that thinks they can say what they like to you, and constantly have an opinion on what you're doing. And we all know what we signed up for, and that's what we need to deal with. But you're a human being, and it doesn't make it easy. You still go through these feelings. It's not like sometimes it's as if, oh, you're in that industry, so you should be
fair
all right
game.
with it.
Aye.
But you do grow a thick skin because it's what you've been in for younger. You have certain things that build you up towards that, coming through a youth system and everybody's fighting to get in the first team, and you go through certain things that build you up to that point where you get there. You maybe train with the first team and they have a go at you to prepare you to get to that play in front of whatever thousand you're playing in front of. But it's still difficult. It's still hard to be there.
You're viewed that you're on all the time. So like, I always remember there was one situation where something had happened and you're really down, right, and you're really low, but you're at the shops or you're somewhere and somebody sees you and you're just not in the mood for anything, but you still need to be on, because if you're not, that person's opinion on you is something that then travels and, oh, I seen him once. That's the part that people don't understand, that everybody has bad days. You can't be on all the time, and that's where it can be a difficult time. And on top of that, you're not trained. You don't go into this with a backing or a degree or whatever. You're thrown in from being a kid and said, deal with it.
You'll know the landscape here, Stuart, because everybody's got an opinion on everything. We can be quite cynical, I think, as well. You know, people seen this accusation out there that, abuse and that was bad, and I think people have sympathy for you on that, because nobody would like really their family, and then you hear, but maybe he stepped away at the right time, because maybe Motherwell were heading in a bad direction anyway. Maybe it all came at a kind of convenient point. I'm almost certain you'll disagree with that, but I just wonder how you feel about that accusation.
Yeah, again, and I'm big on actually doing something in words. My words won't count here. In some certain quarters, they won't count, and people won't agree with me. Sometimes, some people will, irrespective of that. I think when you're sitting in a position where you've got 10, 11, I think the day I left, senior players injured, that's hard for Celtic, who we've been speaking plenty about, to absorb, and they would struggle with that. A lot of them being some of your key players and guys that would make a difference. So, further down the line, could you just sit and could you say, right, well, some of these guys are coming back and my team's going to be better and we'll retain the ball better, we'll create more chances, we'll score more goals and we'll keep more clean sheets. Do I think that we could have won plenty more games such as we had done for the last 2 years? Absolutely, and continued to gain points. But I come back to this bit, Gordon, where I'm not going to overstay my welcome. If that's a sense of even just a minority, and that's the most vocal and the loudest minority.
How do you get that balance then, though? Because I think if we're all accepting that, unless you are Brendan Rodgers, and even he was having a discussion about fans moaning about the ball going backwards, that there might always be a minority. So how do you judge when you think you're overstaying your welcome? Do you know what I mean? What is that?
Yeah, I think we went a bad run last year. We went 15 games last year. The mindset is, of course it is. That was the worst position potentially.
Did you see a difference in the attitude around you then to now?
Yeah, and do you know, not just that, Naisy, as I say, I don't come to the decision easy, but as I say, when your missus is having to take your kids out of stands and you're beating Aberdeen 2-0, a club that spent over 5 million or whatever, which I could only probably dream of at Motherwell, and you're winning that game 2-0 and family members are having to move areas of stands, and again, that's not the whole support, but it's a segment of the support. It's maybe a learning curve for me. Maybe you just keep your family completely away from it and just remove them, and it's purely a job. But as I say, that would have been a big change from kind of what was happening last year, even when we were going through 15 games where we hadn't won. But you know what, we came out the other side of that strong. We recruited not too bad. We started getting guys like Theo Bair scoring goals, and there was a lot of big performances, a lot of boys really pushing on. And I believe that would have been the scenario, and that's what would have come again this time. However, I feel that there's a change from that scenario from what that was last year, because that adversity, it doesn't scare me. I'm sure it doesn't scare the guys here. That's not so much what we're speaking about in terms of, do we think we could have turned it around? Do we think we could have started winning games? You're sitting 5th in the league. We've proved that we can win games of football. That's for sure.
What does Michael Wimmer walk into then? And I wonder, because you've obviously been in that very dressing room. I've always wondered from the outside, when you've got a club of that size, you get so many injuries, and it has been a horrendous injury list.
Yep.
So you try and sign players to replace, and then other players get injured, and this the squad's quite big now, isn't it?
Yeah.
What does he walk into? What challenge will he face?
I think that's a wee bit of regret from me, is that you possibly look and you see that it's too big a squad, that there are too many players. But if you go through the history of actually what was there and what was at your disposal at particular times, I reference having 3 sort of right wing backs because 2 were injured, so we have to have somebody to play there. That eventually becomes 3. Similar situation on the left hand side. The goalie situation was just incredible. Never seen a scenario like that where you lose one goes back to his parent club, one comes in, gets the same injury as the number 1, and then you're back onto what is a 4th goalkeeper, now even a 5th goalkeeper. I've never seen that before. So initially when you walk in, you'll look and you'll say there's a bit of an imbalance. I struggled with that myself. I struggled with that when I was in the job, but so much of that was through necessity. And fortunately enough, Brian Caldwell as the chief executive helped us in that sense. There would probably be in a sense that would have been trimmed down in the last week, just to start to get a wee bit more clarity and a little bit more streamlined in what was there. But there's plenty of options when the next 9 or 10 players that have been out start to filter back in, Gordon. There's good options there, and I believe there's good players, mixture of youth and experience within that, and however he wants to set up and however he wants to play.
That'll be the challenge for him initially, because from going in, you've got your ideas and you want to get them across, but if a squad's too big, trying to manage that is difficult. I think he'll need to find out his key ones first of all to say, right, this is who I'm building with.
Do you remember when we used to meet up with Scotland sometimes?
Boys on the side.
We would have subs. We used to have subs, so we'd play 11v11 and we would have subs.
Subs at training.
Subs at training. So, but Gordon Stack was brilliant, mate, because he would pick people that he knew
They could handle
we
it.
had a good relationship with. So a lot of time I remember being Bruni, like, Bruni, you're a sub.
Aye.
Right.
And
Bruni
Bruni
would
used to
carry
the
it off
side.
all right.
Aye, and he would take, so he kind of knew, but the odd time you get subbed off, you'd be standing outside a training like that. Because there was 25 people or something there.
Probably just to jump back in and again, I only left out 1 player from my squad in my time. So as much as you look and you go,
right, okay, so you didn't have loads in the stand.
That's a big group of players. There was only 1 single player that I had to leave out for a match day squad in that whole time. So again, you might look and you say there looks like too many players there.
How many is there, would you say, with a squad?
I mean, ideally for me, I would always be looking towards that sort of, I always have that 22, 24 in your head.
Are Motherwell into the mid-30s at the moment?
I think they're up round about the 30 mark, yeah. And as I say, for anybody but it's not, as I say, with such long-term injuries and the people that are not able to contribute. I'm just looking about what your eyes tell you when you walk in.
30, you're definitely saying it's too much, right? But I remember being at Kilmarnock and you're sitting there during the week and you're like, Gaffer's got a big decision here Friday. Who's he going to? He should drop him. Your beauty. Let's see how he's going to play this one. Boom. Doesn't need to make a decision because something happens. Somebody gets injured. Whether it's one of the 2 players that need to be picked or somebody else in the 2. Happened all the time. You just think the manager's got a big decision.
What did you make? Michael Wimmer, obviously, most people would say is unknown, and I've seen the reaction from Motherwell fans. I think they quite like that. I think they like that it was. We always categorise managerial appointments, don't we? You 2 were internal appointments.
Yep.
You can go experienced, you can go young manager, try to make his way in the game, or it's referred to as outside the box, whatever that means. I think it just means came from far away and people didn't necessarily know much about him. What did you make of that when you saw the routes that had been taken?
What I took away from it was that Motherwell done a proper process. I think from all the information coming from the club, coming from the manager, they've done the right process. So I don't think they've particularly went, right, this time we're going for a manager that's German or whatever it may be. That for me, I think it's done right. I'm not one of these ones that think, oh, let's go outside the box, because I was at Hearts when Stendhal came in. Now, I thought Daniel Stendhal was a good coach, really good coach. I don't think he really understood the league and where we were sitting in the league, what was required. He came in with his style and said, we're doing this. Probably a bit like Man United at the moment. The managers came in and we suffered because it didn't suit the players we had in the squad. So we'd concede goals that you probably wouldn't think we should. I think striking that balance is going to be the short term. There's periods, pre-seasons, winter breaks, there's period cup weeks where you're not in the cup and you've got a free, you can implement a bit more, but going week to week it's tough to.
What does that look like though? Because fans don't want someone appointed just because they know the league, because that doesn't give you guarantees either.
No, and I get that, and not specific to Motherwell or the new appointment here at all, but this league is so unique in my opinion. I think it's so unique if you're at a Motherwell or a Ross County, and the reason why I say that is the games are completely different. You know, from going to maybe playing Celtic at Celtic Park to maybe Ross County at home to maybe playing Kilmarnock on the AstroTurf. The games are so unique, you know. So I personally, this is only my opinion, I don't necessarily always think that this one size football fits all. So I'm not suggesting that's what it is. I don't know, but for me, there always has to be a versatility in what you do, depending what club you're at and what faces you of a particular week. You'll have your non-negotiables, you'll have your structure, and for us, we have a very kind of detailed tactical way of playing, a tactical DNA, if you want to kind of to jazz it up. Pitch maps are how we play in every area of the pitch. That was something that we worked through every day of our lives, in correlation with your analysis, your pitch work, and all of that. But there was variation in it. There has to be, in my opinion, there has to be variation in that.
I think that's where Scotland's different. When you say it's unique, it's different to other European leagues, because if you look at Croatia, Denmark, these type, it's as if there's an unwritten rule of no, we all try and play out, because maybe it's an FA driven thing or whatever it may be. So you can play with a higher line, because you know most teams, unwritten rule, we're going to try and play. We recruit players for that. In Scotland, you've got one extreme to the other, and that's no right or wrong, because there's been success. I think if you look at Steve Clark's Kilmarnock team, they were a team that were well organised defensive, and they had good counter attack moments that got them a lot of points. I think most of the teams recently that have had success, St Mirren and Irwin, who have got Europe this year, well organised, play a certain way, and they understand it and they're really good at it. But in other leagues around Europe, it's no, we all play in a similar-ish build-up, which helps with that.
Charlie, you're a new manager as well, and I wonder just if you're facing kind of similar dilemmas or challenges. You all start out with this notion of, well, I want to do this and I want to do that, and you've dreamt about it all, and you've envisaged it, and this is your big moment, and you start in management, and then there's 11 other players coming up against you. What's that process like? It's all relative. You're probably going through the same
it's
thing.
Early doors for me, right? I'm 2 games in, but from my point of view, and I was saying to Naisy earlier, that I look at why I want to be a manager, right? So what made me want to become a coach? What made me want to become a manager? And I see the game in a certain way, right? So there's large parts of my career I didn't enjoy. When I look back at games with Scotland, I loved playing with Scotland, right? So let's not get that mixed up. I loved going away. Every opportunity I got, I loved going away with the lads. We had a great squad. We used to get a good laugh. And I just loved that national anthem and standing there with that playing. And even watching it now still gives me goosebumps, right? But so many games in game I did not enjoy. Going away and playing against Belgium, and you're camped in your 18-yard line, and it's just so unenjoyable. You can understand why maybe managers done that, because you've been defensively sound, like we spoke about Celtic and Atlanta, whatever, right? So I look back and think so many games I didn't enjoy, and I think then when I was at Celtic, I had the complete opposite. I'd go back to Celtic and we would just dominate games and be in a team's half, and it was so enjoyable. You walk into Celtic Park, you walk into away ground, you go, we'll win in a day. It's just how we do it. We know exactly what we're doing. We know we're going to have possession. We know we're going to have the ball. You grew up in the school playground having possession, and you enjoyed it. So my motivation was, I want to look at a team and see a team that are totally enjoying the game. Now, how they're going to do that? By having possession and attacking and creating chances. Now, I'm not deluded to think that that's going to be every single game. There's going to be challenges within that. But in the main, that's how I want to see it, and that's what my main thing is. Now, I don't want to get attached to results too much and go, but the result, and if we win this week, right, take a deep breath. I want to know how we've won and how we've done it, and based on how I see the game, how is that unfolded? How can we be better at it? How can we be better off the ball? How can we be better on the ball? But in the main, I want to see that. I want to see my team doing that, and then we can go, right, what was the score? How did we get on? And I think over time, in my opinion, you'll pick up results, and you'll have a style of play which will get you winning games. Now, I need to see if I can do that and if that can happen, but that's how I see the game, and I don't want to be in management to just go every game and just know how I won and attach everything to results. Now, I'm not deluded enough to know that it's not about results, and of course you want to win, and there's that winner inside, and if you don't win, something doesn't feel right. But I want to see my team in there, and I want to see a team that has possession and has attacking football and has chances, although off the ball has a plan and has an organisation.
How difficult is the balance for all of you though? Because you're not wrong. Yep. And then, but then everybody knows way back to what we said at the start, everybody's getting less patient.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned something about in time you'll get results, you might not get the time. So what does short-term success versus long-term planning look like? How do you make them meet in the middle?
Yeah, that's what I'm finding out now. So I'm just new in it, and I've got this idea on how I see the game. And the first game I had didn't see any of that really. The second game, we're 60% possession, so I start to go, right, okay, well there's something there in how I see it. Although within that there's loads more we need to do better. And this is where I'm just now, so I'm trying to get that we've got a great bunch of lads. I mean, I can't ask for a better bunch of lads in terms of what they're like as players and what they're like as human beings, and they're all responsive and they all want to do well and they all want to listen. So I'm finding out right now, I want to get to that point where we're playing well and we're also...
We're in a world where past successes don't carry weight. Right, that's that. You can be successful, really good. Man City dominated for the last 5 years, but very quickly people go, is that it? That's it. And then it's as if we need to not wash our hands. The next one's going to be much better. When really that's as big a gamble as not. And that's where at any club, I think you'll all have seen it. The key is having people that understand that and understand that it's going to be rocky, depending what club you're at. Gauging level of success, and there's so many more metrics nowadays that can tell you realistically probability we should have X amount of points over what we actually have, and that football's unpredictable. And that I think is where we're lost a wee bit. You lose that, any success is quickly forgotten.
I just feel that so much of this is to do with the people that are behind you. You know, I'll go back to it. You know, the previous executive board that I had at Motherwell, unbelievably supportive. The current one, unbelievably supportive. You know, whether it was the 15 games that you were losing. So I think going back to what Charlie's saying there, I think we've all had this blue sky way of thinking. This is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to run. I think you depend on the people so much that are behind you and whether they've got that same vision and drive. I would counter it slightly that, you know, we'll talk about how we want to play. For me personally, it's the player development that's the most important part of me. That's the bit that means the most to me. Now, some people would say that a style of football and a particular way of playing will enhance that, will make that better. But I can genuinely tell you that that's the bit that gets me up in the morning when you see individuals. Not so that I can say, oh, I've made this player or I've coached this player, but that's the bit that really motivates me. And as I say, there's a balance between how you play within that, but that individually driven.
When I retired, my first conversation with Hearts was, I don't want to coach a youth. Because the way I was as a player and demanding and that, I was like, they'll not enjoy it.
Demanding is the word for it.
Just that.
I've heard a few versions of that.
And I'll get frustrated with them. But I must say, it's probably, I agree with you, that the most satisfaction I got from any coaching or management was when you see a young player or you see any player and you work in something and then they go out and do it. They go out and do it, or they make that right decision that you've talked to them about. It's so rewarding.
Because we only facilitate that. You know, you get so many egomaniacs that run about and go, oh, that was me that done that. No, it wasn't. You show somebody the path and it's up to them whether they start to go down it and they start to make those improvements.
I think that helped me even in the youth. Starting off in youth, I think that helped me as a coach.
100%.
You have done the same.
Yeah.
How do you then find that you're in a full-time environment at Hamilton to go part-time and talk about what your style in that is? How frustrating or hard is that over 2 training nights?
What is that? What's a working day like for a Kelty manager? How do you balance the week and the day?
So obviously we train Tuesday and we train Thursday. We play Saturday, so it's a long time for the Saturday to the Tuesday. But in between that, I'm preparing the video that we've just done and preparing clips to then show the boys on the Tuesday night. They're obviously coming for work, a lot of them. So it's understanding that's their main job, but they're coming here also. Football's got a part to play and enjoy.
So you know what, you work a Monday essentially. It's not like you just
100%. No, that's full time and you're running it through your mind. And then on a Sunday you're going, right, need to give the family some time today, and you go somewhere with them, but your mind's just and Alana will go like that to you. You're away again. You're trying to bring yourself back because you're going, right,
Annan.
Aye, you're thinking
Going through a phase as I play with the family in the back garden.
100%.
I done both at the same time. So I took the under-20s at Ross County and I was the assistant manager at Brora Rangers, kind of by default. So I was kind of working between both jobs at the same time, and the thought process killed me because I loved the bit during the day, boys were buying into it. It was full time. We were trying to develop a way of playing. You're trying to develop individuals, help them become better. And then at night, I went off to the part-time element with Brora Rangers, and all the boys wanted to do was play five-a-side. So I was doing a session during the day and going, this will work great if we take it into this environment. And guys are looking and going,
it's a different type of
up the
management
road kind of thing. And it's not to discredit them. It was just kind of where they were in their career.
Or
and
will
what
you
they
know that? Is it a different type of management then?
I
To keep everybody on side, to get the best out your players?
I think it depends at what age group you've got, because I look at that Brora team, a lot of really good guys that had good careers, and some that had been full-time pros, Premier League, but they were coming towards the end of their career. You know, if you're working with some younger players, then I think the buy-in will be that bit easier, even in the part-time environment, as opposed guys that have had it, now work, and they just play football.
Well, I've got a funny mix, because I've got 5 boys on loan who are young lads that maybe for Rangers or Hibs or Dundee United, and they're still in a full-time environment during the day, and they come to me at night. So they've a lot of them have still probably got the aspirations to go into their first teams at that level. Whereas I've got boys that maybe us try to get up to that level, but maybe some of them are quite happy in their work that they're doing, and then they come here and they, as you say, they want to play fives and they want to enjoy it. But I think still enjoying training is something you want. That I wanted all through my career. You still want to have that element of enjoying it, and you don't want to walk through shape constantly. And I'm saying shape because that's the main thing we all know, that's quite, walk through is quite boring. So I don't like to do too much of that anyway, whether it be a full-time environment or a part-time environment. So you want to give them the enjoyment, but you don't want to be not giving them information, because ultimately they want to go on Saturday and know what they're doing. And that's why I say it's a good bunch of lads, because you can see by just looking in their eyes that they want to be better, they want to be a team and understand your message and go on the pitch and do it. And you talk to them and they ask questions. So it's not like there's a bunch of lads off the building site at 35-year-old that want a game of fives. Do you know what I mean? It's not quite
It's
like
on
that.
their terms all the time.
It's not quite like that. It's a good bunch of boys, and it's but I'm wary that I do want to make it enjoyable for them.
And this is what it all comes down to. Can you win on a Saturday? All these ideas. Let's take a look at the fixtures. Are Hibs absolutely fuming that Celtic didn't go extra time last night? Is David Gray sitting there saying, please keep running them into the ground?
One of the toughest things, and see when you play in Europe, you have that big high, as much as it was defeat, but just the adrenaline of the game. Hardest wins the weekend after.
Bit of travelling and stuff.
I think
not far, but
but just the
Not even
recovery,
the travelling,
the mental state.
I think it's the mental side.
Yeah.
So you go, right, I've been at Bayern, the Allianz, you turn up their Champions League night, Champions League tunes, all the cameras there. And now you need to go. And by the way, Easter Road's a good one because it's a great place to go in that. But
everybody just expects you to win.
expects you in. You're like, I need to get up for this. You almost slamp your face before the game. Thinking, I need to get on it here, because it's not like I can just step out here and be half-hearted, because I'll get found out. I need to be absolutely on it, like I was the other night, to have any chance.
And again, Celtic just going to every game as favourites. Sure, I don't think or domestically, there's no doubt about that, but couldn't really have picked a harder opponent and venue
at this minute in time. You're playing against a form horse, aren't you? You're playing against someone that's going really well. However, you would envisage Celtic making that probably 5-6 changes potentially to the starting 11, and I think that's helped him with the freshness, and he's done it a few times and it's worked well recently.
I mean, we talk about a European hangover. I don't really remember Celtic having any or many. Again, this is maybe just a bit more of an interesting balance, because it could be down to what Hibs are really good. You know what I mean? They're, let's give them a bit of credit. They might get something out of the game, and if they do, it doesn't mean that that Celtic have.
I think most teams, when you've got the old firm at home, feel that we're going in here, we've got a chance here. The European game helps with that. So Hibs and David Gray will have his team ready and going, let's start fast, let's ask them a question. So I think Hibs have been good. They've been consistent. They've got a way of playing, and I think that they'll definitely fancy their chances.
What Celtic, I think, have got the advantage of getting into these games is every single players know exactly who they are and what they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So even the subs coming in, they know exactly what the game plan is.
You've got a role, haven't you? You're stepping straight into the same role.
Exactly. So you're stepping right into that, and then you've also got Brendan Rodgers, who then is wary of this complacency that we spoke about earlier and knows the exact words to say. So they push all the right buttons in terms of how they're playing, what he needs to say to them. But it's still tough. But at least they can fall back in that, and I think that's what gives them an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Hibs' form, and we've been talking about management and expectations and young Scottish managers. Outside perception was that David Gray was probably on the brink, if we want to call it that. Does this? And you spoke about Stuart's bad run last season. Show that what can happen if you stick
definitely. I think no matter what type of manager you are, I think that it takes time to, one, get your message across, but build consistency, build a resilience, build a understanding. That all takes time. We're just in an era of it needs to be now.
They've changed the way they play. It's as simple as that. They're much. I'm being as complimentary as I possibly can because they're doing fantastic. David's doing really well. They're much more pragmatic. They've now playing with a back three. They're much harder to break down. And I think that's changed their fortune. I really do think that they've found a formula that's working for them, and full credit for that.
Aberdeen, finally. Right? I need to count back the number of episodes where we've said, is this the week that Aberdeen win? Is this the week they turn it round? The first cup win was a false dawn and they couldn't follow up. This time they have. And their points total so good from the start of the season, they're back into third.
I think the next 2 weeks are massive for Aberdeen to see where they really are. Because a home game's good for them, but Kilmarnock are a tough test. Really organised. Dale knows exactly what he wants from his team and how they play. So it'll be an interesting game, but not one that you just think, I don't think it's as straightforward as Aberdeen have got their win, let's move forward.
How good was Keskinen's goal though?
Some finish. I watched him against England. It was, and
right, yeah.
He'd only just come to Aberdeen, and you can see the quality he's got playing at Wembley at the time. I thought he was a real handful. He's maybe not always hit the heights, but you can see that there's a player there and that there's real quality in him.
I find it really hard to mention him without referencing his Wayne Rooney fishing tattoo that he's got. Have you seen this?
I've not seen this, no.
I bring it up every time that his name is mentioned because I can't look it up. He's got it's like a Wayne Rooney shirt and a fishing rod or something. That's his tattoo.
Do you know the
What's the
meaning?
reference to that?
Just must love fishing and Wayne Rooney. I don't know. Can't be much deeper than that, surely. That'll be a fascinating one at Pittodrie. And then, do you know what, Stuart? I wonder if that fixture, maybe the Dundee United Motherwell sums this up. 11 points between 3rd and 11th.
Yep.
And don't worry, I'm not blaming you for it all because you were gone by the time Motherwell lost to Ross County last week. But the record against Dundee United's really good, and they're up the top. And the record against some of the teams below this season hasn't been good. So does that just sort of sum up how tight it all is?
I think it sums the league up, to be honest. I think we've beaten Dundee United 3 times. I think maybe played them 3 times this season and won 3 games. But you go to Tannadice, I think their record's brilliant there this year. I think they've only maybe lost, is it 3? Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe at home. The particular day that we played them there earlier in the season, it was such a tough game. It was a really close game, and we had a wee bit of quality with a couple of counter-attacks, wee bit of quality in our play. But again, I felt as if you were splitting hairs between the 2 teams, and they've been good all season. They've been really consistent, so it's a tough game.
Rangers St Mirren, Stephen, look, we've been here a million times now with Philippe Clement. We've already done the whole Queen's Park reaction. They go to Hearts, where I think people are then maybe looking at them tripping up, and they don't results-wise, but people are still on them because they didn't think the performance was very good. How can anything fix this?
I think Hearts' result was good. Look, really good. I think their performance was good. It wasn't their best. The manager said that after. It wasn't their best. It's important at the Old Firm to win your one after you get beat. But this weekend's game, anything could happen and nothing will change. That's where I think Rangers are at domestically, because
what a
they're so
place
far
that is
back.
to be in.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of onus on their European run now. But for the manager, he spoke about it's going to take time. Recruitment they've brought in younger players that are going to be inconsistent. And I think at times they've not raised to that expectation of playing at the Old Firm. Whether they can get that, time will tell.
How important is that European run then? Because we were speaking earlier about managers breaking points and all that, and Philippe Clement's at a stage where he's coming out the stadium and people are hurling serious abuse and filming it. But he's still in Europe and he's still in a good position there.
Everything's on that, as you said.
Just everything.
Everything's on that, really. He's Scottish Cup was the one where he probably wanted to.
It's a hard place for them to be. That is it. Week to week, does it really matter now?
I know. It is a tough one because that could be done quickly as well. Europe, you know what Europe's like. So I think a lot of it's on that. But again, you brought a manager in for a plan, a long term. What you expect? You expect him to go and beat Celtic? You know what I mean? The first couple of seasons, I don't know. It's hard. The guy needs time.
Well, people's notion of time is different now, and actually, by modern standards, it's not short anymore. Do you know what I mean? He's been here over a year,
but
which
I
is
think
scary
also
to think that.
Where the club have been financially and what they've backed and what they've paid for over the last few years hasn't been at the level of Celtic or others, and that's part of the problem. He's trying to fix that problem as well as get results and be competitive.
Lots of big games to look forward to. Ross County, Dundee, huge. Dundee in that relegation playoff spot, but it's so tight. You wonder how much that counts for any more than maybe just a psychological challenge. And Simo Valakari hosting Hearts. Again, Hearts probably can take confidence, can't they, from the performance anyway against Rangers. They were actually pretty good within the game and didn't manage to get the result. Let's take a look down the divisions as well, because there's plenty to get our teeth into. We're getting to that stage of the season. If we can take a look at the Championship fixtures, it was a cracker last weekend, wasn't it? Falkirk managing to... The Scott Arfield show continues. What a signing that's been. Gets the equaliser last week. And going to Morton, Stuart, who had a good win during the week.
11 undefeated, isn't it? Including a victory against Hamilton. They're so difficult to play against at Capello. I was at the Falkirk Ayr game on Saturday. Really entertaining. Falkirk playing very much the way that they have been all season. And you can see that they're having a bit of a go with some of the recruitment to try and invest to see if they can make that jump into the Premier League, and rightfully so. But that'll be a tough game for them going down to Capello.
See, you make sourdough bread in your spare time. This guy's straight back in football games. Can't stay away. He's gone, where's the nearest stadium? Falkirk. I'll go there. That was not a bad choice. I mean, Ayr Livy's brilliant, because we're talking the old 6-pointer there. Then these teams need to play each other a lot, so these could be massive. Ayr coming off the back of the Falkirk game and going straight into that one. I want to skip down a bit to Partick Thistle against Airdrie, because with managerial change in Chris Doolan leaving. So again, I feel like we're a lot of talk about managers here and either losing their job or choosing a club legend as well. It's always it's delicate, that, isn't it? It's hard for fans.
What I would say is, though, I think the reaction from it has been good. I think they can understand what he's done. It's maybe got to a point where does change help. What he has done, though, is lost his best players consistently, still challenged over the last 2 years, and the job's just become tougher and tougher, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I always remember, Stuart, obviously you came in off the back of Stevie Hamill, and the Motherwell fans, obviously he's like a legend there, and it's just never easy. Fans always feel a bit mixed, where they acknowledge it's maybe the right thing, but it's harder to almost see it. Brian Graham, we had him on here earlier in the... You with him that day, no?
No.
Who was he on with? But anyway, we had him on the warm-up, and we kind of having a laugh about, you must be the busiest man because you're the captain of Thistle, the women's head coach, one of the top scorers in the Championship. Now he's added interim manager onto that, along with Mark Wilson, who you'll know well and has been at the 18s. So
I've worked with Brian a few times, and I've had the same laugh and joke with him that he's got that much going on at the minute. But listen, first and foremost, disappointed to see Chris go. Him and I went into the job. I think we were actually, ironically, working in the radio on the same day when he took the Partick Thistle job, and I'd taken the Motherwell job, both interim, I think, to begin with. So disappointed to see that. But obviously, Brian knows the football club, so I think that gives him a real head start. He'll have all the respect in the world.
And he's been taking a team.
And he's been taking a team. He's been coaching, so I think that helps you so much. You know, Chris was kind of thrust into that pretty quickly, wasn't he? I think he'd only been a few weeks.
He's such an important player, though, isn't he?
Yeah, and that'll be a balance as well.
Is his suspension up? Someone needs to
remind me. I think it was only one game. Yeah, I'm
sure
it was only one game.
They're not in a stage really where he can afford to come out with the team, though, are they? That's part of the problem Partick Thistle fans have been saying, is that he's, and as good as he is, there's maybe not much else to back him up.
Yeah, that'll be tough. I always remember Alec Neil saying it was tough when he done it at Hamilton, maybe for a short period, depending on what happens. But that'll be something he's not experienced, playing and managing.
If there's one thing I want to get out of the warm-up by the end of the season, it's some sort of managerial exclusive. I offered to take your CV to Fir Park a couple of times, and you avoided the question. Stuart, your name automatically goes into the mix for Partick Thistle. You giving us an insight?
Listen, again, I've made no secret that I want to go back into football management without speaking about specific jobs. I know I said to you the other day that I have been offered the job in the last couple of weeks.
I don't expect you to name the club. Is that...
I won't, no.
Tell us the country. Is it here?
No, it wasn't in Scotland. Right. It wasn't in Scotland. But again, I think we would all tell you the same thing. Everything needs to be the right fit for you, the right fit for the other club. I'm extremely grateful that offer came very, very quickly. But again, I think you have to make sure.
Partick Thistle an attractive job, do you think?
Partick Thistle are a big club, of course they are, and they've consistently been in that kind of playoff spot in the last couple of years, etc. But there's certainly not been any contact from me to Partick Thistle or vice versa. But I'm sure it's a job that will attract a lot of people.
I'd say it's the toughest league in Scotland, hardest league to play in. get up, to get out of.
And there's now no so-called big team or massive team in it.
That's why it's so tough. 5 or 6 of them will all fancy their chances to
Yep.
be in the playoff minimum.
And is that where actually the Partick Thistle expectations, because they're sitting fourth, Charlie, so then they're probably going to be in that playoff, but actually that's now not necessarily seen as good enough. It is if Dundee United are in the league and some other big teams, but Partick Thistle fans all looked at that and thought, well, why can't we win it? But
But you say it is. There's every team. There's 5 or 6 teams that looking at the same thing. Can they get up? Can they be automatic promotion? So
What makes it so hard is Falkirk have come up and done so well.
Yeah, exactly.
So then that puts and mounts pressure on everybody. You've come from League One, you look as if you might be making it 2 years consecutively. And I
it's a
think
bit
that
like
mounts
Dundee
pressure on
United,
everybody.
because if you're trying to map out who finishes top 6 in the Premiership, you maybe aren't automatically thinking of the newly
You give them a year,
promoted
don't you?
team.
Even to say necessarily Hearts done it, didn't they?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, promoted.
These are
and then-
such big clubs.
Yeah.
Let's take a wee look through the rest, Charlie. Come on then, what we saying? Inverness, because just obviously the ultimate false league position they're in because of their points deduction. What have you learned about that league so far? Is there anything that's sort of surprised you? Or?
No. You're learning all the time, obviously, playing different teams in different kind of systems. Listen, I watch the games. I watch 2 or 3 games of the opposition before we play them, but our main focus will be us and what we do. And then, of course, there's wee bits you look at in Inverness, and I watched a game of theirs yesterday and kind of things that they do in it. And yeah, we'll look at that and see how we can adjust wee bits that we do and then stop the nullify their threats, and then also how they press and what their defensive shape is to see how we can be one step ahead when we go into the game. But no, I'm learning all the time in the league. But as I say,
Do you find it different playing at home to away in League One? Does it have as big a bearing as it does further up?
So I've only played one home game, one away game. The biggest thing I've noticed is our pitch is really small.
Yeah.
It's narrow. We've got a narrow pitch, so that's the biggest thing I've noticed. We played Alloa there last week, and they've got quite a big pitch. Although it's not long, it's quite wide, which was good. So that's the only thing I've kind of noticed so far.
So are you alluding to the fact you don't think it is as big a jump? As
Not just interested, because I
in
do
the top
know
flight.
the higher I've played, it does have an impact on just the way the game plays out. I think in League One, obviously with the crowds a bit less, but just interested to see how big a difference it does make.
And there's a lot of astral pitches in the league as
there is
well.
actually,
There's only we've only got 2 grass pitches left out of 12 games.
Wow.
Yeah, well, Steny are both, that's third against first, isn't it? So that's a cracker, and even better in League 2 because there's a top of the table clash in there as well. We'll get East Fife taking on Peterhead. So plenty to look forward to down the divisions. William Hill League 2, they're all a bit mad, aren't they, in their own way? Whether they're all tight or in the middle or top or bottom, there's a lot going on. So plenty to look forward to this week. I think that's us. You all happy? Good. You got any baking to be done this afternoon? Are you
No, I'm
rushing
going to
off?
the bakery tomorrow. Do my bakery shift tomorrow.
Seriously?
Aye, tomorrow morning.
Going into an actual bakery to do a
Yep,
shift?
Big Bear Bakery
Trying
in
to give them
Glasgow.
a Big Bear, is it?
Yep, doing my bread shift.
Is that an early start?
It is, yeah.
Aye,
I'll do
is
it
it
because
you-
of what I learn.
Aye,
I'm going to make bread, aye.
why?
Because I enjoy it.
Oh, do you?
What's your
Aye, aye.
start time tomorrow?
I think it's 6:30. So
Do you actually enjoy it? Aye.
I love it, mate.
Try it. Surely we can get
No,
an
no,
offer.
I'm interested. It's brilliant. I
I
can't believe you
cannot see
enjoy
him
it.
baking.
I just
No chance.
when I was at work, I was thinking, right, what could I try and do that's so different to what I've been doing, and I enjoyed it.
Seriously, I don't really like getting up early. I'm going down to Big Bear Bakery and I want to see him. You don't need a hairnet, do you?
No, that's low, man.
I'm going to see him in the bakery with the silver. I'm impressed with that. Good on you.
So how many shifts you do?
No, this is the first one.
Oh, is
If I like it, I'll hopefully get asked back.
Nice.
Amazing. Brilliant. Well, you've got to finish on that note. It doesn't get much better than that.
Brilliant.
Honestly, co-pilot Baker, there's no end to this man's talents. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Thanks to our top guests, Charlie Mulgrew and Stuart Kettlewell, and we'll see you next time on the warm-up.